I'm not doing it.
Do it.
I'm not doing it.
Do it.
I think they want you to do it.
Well, that's why I don't want to do it.
You're teasing them.
I want to let them speculate. So, producer Laura's here,
Hello.
and how do we refer to you?
Sean,
What's the job title that we go for?
content editor.
Token Irishman?
Yeah, token Irishman. Go for that.
Okay. Content editor Sean and token Irishman Laura. Great. Do you know, should we just go straight in?
Yeah, why not?
Should we just break protocol?
Yeah.
Should we go full politics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do live show first, though.
Let's do live show. Okay, so there is a live show. We're doing it this Sunday, the Apollo Theatre in Soho. Guest is Mari Black, who obviously is not running to be an MP at the next election. So she's loose.
She's say whatever she wants.
Her mouth is moving.
Loose-lipped Mary Black on Sunday.
Well, she will be. And also it will be one of her, she hasn't done an interview in quite some time, really. So she'll have quite a lot stored up, I would imagine.
I imagine lots of thoughts on the campaigns.
I would have thought. Right, let's crack on. We're going to talk about Laura, who went to the Isle of Wight yesterday. We're going to talk about Sean, who went to Newcastle-under-Lyme yesterday, the day before yesterday. Monday. There's been a lot of constituency travelling. There's been a lot of investigation into who's winning what where. Oh, let's start with Northallerton.
Yeah.
So what happened? You went to Rishi Sunak's constituency.
Jesus, we've so much that we haven't published yet.
I know. I think this one's almost finished though.
Cool.
Yeah, so after we did the live show in York on Thursday, Sam and I went to Northallerton, which is like the biggest town in Rishi Sunak's constituency. And it is really beautiful there. Like, it's stunning. It's like the sort of, like, I imagine constituency that Tory MPs would like dream of representing. It's like pastoral and like all these old buildings. It's very pretty. But his constituents didn't seem too enamoured by him. We couldn't find one person that said that they were going to vote Conservative in his seat. And obviously that polling had come out that said that Rishi Sunak was predicted to lose his seat. I think it was the Savanta poll, to the Labour candidate, Tom Wilson. And I thought, oh, that seems quite far-fetched, surely not. But then when we went there and we were talking to people and we couldn't find one person that said they were going to vote Conservative, I felt like that polling might actually be quite accurate. I think actually what was interesting is the consensus amongst the constituents seemed to be, oh, we like Rishi Sunak as a person, as a local MP. We do not like him as a prime minister.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and they wanted a change in government. A couple of people said they were going to vote Lib Dem. A couple of people said they were still undecided. Some Labour, and then we met one Reform guy as well.
The one Reform guy.
One.
You felt like it was a token Reform guy, didn't you? Because it was quite it was the only find that you had. Yeah.
I would say that he was maybe an outlier in the group of people.
We'll talk a bit more about the Isle of Wight in a minute, but how do you think that Reform voter compared to the Reform voters that you met on the Isle of Wight?
I actually think they were quite similar in what they were concerned about. They bring up issues like housing, cost of living. I mean, they're concerned about the same issues that everyone is concerned about. Their solution or kind of diagnosis of the cause is what differs. Like, rather than saying that these services have been underfunded, they've been made deliberately scarce, they see rather themselves in competitions with others for the scarce resource. So they don't place the blame with funding or the service itself. They're blaming it with immigrants.
And what do you think about the talk of the silent majority? So the Conservatives who are there, who might have put in their postal vote or will still turn out on the day. Because one thing I felt when I went to Godalming for Jeremy Hunt, I felt like I did speak to Conservatives that wouldn't go on camera, but I did speak to quite a few of them. And so I'm not sure that he will lose his seat, even though the polling indicates that he will. Do you think that there is a silent cohort of people in Richmond who will still vote for Rishi Sunak?
I mean, I did wonder that because 3 people we spoke to that said they were undecided, I did wonder, oh, well, on polling day, are you going to vote Conservative? Like, yes, you're unhappy with how the government is doing, but ultimately, will you still be voting Conservative? Yeah, so I think it could be that. But also I think what's interesting is it is quite an agricultural constituency as well. And there was Farmers Weekly polling, which I think showed that about 60% of farmers intend to vote Labour at the election.
Well, you're finished. You're so done.
If you've lost the farmers. You went to a farming area as well, a post-industrial area, Newcastle-under-Lyme.
Newcastle-under-Lyme, yeah. I didn't see any farms when I was there, but yeah, post-industrial. No, I just went straight into the high street and then...
Right.
Yeah.
But it's post-industrial, isn't it? Because it's Stoke adjacent, so it's old pottery.
I mean, it's coal mines, it's Stoke, it's next to Stoke, it's like 20-minute drive away from Stoke.
It's got the canal running through that's like the Panama Canal of pottery, isn't it? That's what they built it for. That is
what they were calling it when it was there.
But that's what they built it for, isn't it? Was to move the pottery around.
Yeah, no, I was in Newcastle-under-Lyme on Monday doing a piece on food banks. Newcastle-under-Lyme has had 120, it's in between 110 and 120, I'm not sure on the exact number, increase in food parcels since 2019. So went there to do a piece. Percent increase, yeah.
That's a lot.
It's double the amount, yeah.
Well, you could say it like that, couldn't you?
Yeah. I should have said it like that in the first place, shouldn't I?
No, you were being accurate.
Yeah. 113 is what it is.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So just over double.
A bit closer to 110, wasn't it?
Yeah. They are an interesting bunch. I was speaking to a lot of people on the high street, obviously, and constituency-wise, has always voted Labour. Since Labour has been a political entity, Newcastle-under-Lyme has voted Labour, except for in 2019, they voted Conservative for the first time. They're going to be voting Labour again in this election.
You told them that, yeah?
Yeah, I did tell them. So there are 10 people that are eligible to vote in Newcastle-under-Lyme, and I told all of them to vote for Labour.
Nice one.
They're likely to go back red.
What do you think that was? Is that to do with the Brexit vote? Is it?
Yeah, a lot of people were saying Brexit. They were also quite thin, or Labour were quite thin in their victory in 2017 as well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it may well have been a Brexit vote then. But I think the thing that differs between the likes of your Northallertons or your Isle of Wights is that this being, it's not necessarily red wall, but it's one of those constituencies that are like reform curious, like UKIP curious constituencies. And whilst the people that I spoke to were going to vote Labour next week, they were still, the issues that were high on the mind of people there were still things like migration, still things like net zero, all these policies that are exact reform policies. But they were deciding to vote for Labour instead. And I found it interesting just of the I don't know. I met some people that were reform, but by and large it was a Labour Vox essentially. And I couldn't really piece on the day where the connection between these centre-right wing policies and a vote for Labour were coming from.
Right.
So it was quite interesting there.
What I was just trying to figure out was, has Sunak been to visit that area? Because Keir Starmer hasn't really been around Stoke, hasn't really been around Newcastle, because they're marginals, aren't they? And Labour aren't going for marginals. They feel quite confident about them. Labour are going to the sort of like 20,000 majorities, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, Rishi Sunak was in his own constituency campaigning. Was it yesterday or the day before?
That man is shitting himself.
Yeah, he shook hands with the Labour candidate Tom Wilson, who we spoke to him when we were up there. Very nice guy. I think is a bit himself surprised that he might end up being the guy that dethrones the Prime Minister at the election. I don't think he was expecting that. I don't think Keir Starmer was expecting that.
Who is he? What's his background? Do you know?
So he works in internal comms for the NHS.
He's an NHS man.
He's an NHS man, and he was talking about how cuts in the NHS, and also how this kind of war on pen pushers in the NHS that the Tories have pushed. He was saying it's disastrous because if you get rid of people like him, he's like, there's going to be no line of communication between senior executives and the doctors on the ground. And there's going to be no one to mediate those decisions, and how it's going to lead to a lot more doctors having to do a lot more paperwork and a lot less time with patients.
So it's like the war on civil servants.
It is, yeah.
Right.
Quite interesting that the Stammer candidate is like a middleman admin type, and he's going to get rid of Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. With all due respect, it's not quite as sexy being a pen pusher in the NHS as it is being a former nurse or a doctor, is it?
No.
It's not exactly
Yeah.
front line, I've slaved away for you.
Mm-hmm. No. I am an expert on Excel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great at sending emails.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have the hallmarks of the type of story that you would think could dethrone the Prime Minister, right? Mm-hmm. If you had someone who, say, had worked in the A&E department that closed down in Rishi Sunak's constituency and said things like, I'm now at another hospital and we're being fed into now by double the number of people, and look, I've still got blood on my forehead and I've got urine on my leg.
That's mine. Sorry.
Nervous. But you could see that then, couldn't you? You could imagine that kind of story would be able to topple him.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that is a great narrative and it builds a great campaign. But instead, you've picked a guy who's just as boring as you are.
Do you think that maybe that they didn't?
Maybe we should cut that.
Why?
I don't want to call the Labour candidate boring.
Well, you're editing it, so
that's true.
You can talk about. Well, you write that down. Perhaps though, there's something that maybe Labour didn't think that it would be a target seat for them.
Yeah.
I do think quite a few of the seats have become surprise targets for them.
Definitely. I think that's what Tom's Wilson seat, Rishi Sunak seat, is one of them. Because he was saying that Keir Starmer a few days earlier had been in North Yorkshire out campaigning, but didn't come to see Tom or be in Rishi Sunak's constituency. That might have been a bit too tanks on lawn for the opposition leader to be out campaigning in the...
Yes, that is firmly, isn't it? That's... So on the flip side of that, of Labour candidates now finding themselves in the position that they actually might get elected in seats that they weren't expecting to. If you look back at the 2019 election, that happened with quite a number of Tories. The Conservatives obviously had, a landslide. And, what you basically do is you put candidates, you want to put a candidate in every single seat, right? Because it's good for PR. It shows that you think that you've got a standing everywhere.
Yeah.
A number of them are put in there sort of as placeholders in seats that they don't think they're going to win. And that happened with Joe Gideon in Stoke. The boundaries have changed, so I can't give you the exact Stoke, but it's one of them. It's either Stoke North, it's not Stoke North. It'll be either Stoke South or Stoke Central, but the boundaries have changed. When she found out that she had won on the night, I have been told that she turned to her advisor and she said, oh my God, I have to move to Stoke.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
That she was a placeholder. She wasn't expecting to win. And that's actually corroborated by the fact that she stood down a year ago.
Yeah.
She already announced she wasn't going to run again.
And you were in Stoke yesterday?
No, I just have loads of Stoke knowledge. The potteries.
Yeah.
I was in Stoke yesterday.
We're big on Stoke this week, aren't we?
Big on that area. In Jonathan Gullis's constituency. It is an area that needs a lot of funding. It's received a bit of levelling up funding over the past few years. It needs a significant regeneration. We went to 2 different high streets. So the piece that will come out is really about the sort of the death of the high street. Empty shops everywhere, just really high levels of crime. I think when I say that sounds really blasé, as in shopkeepers I'm speaking to reporting like having their windows smashed in most months. It's just a seriously dilapidated area, and it's because there is no industry there. The only company that is there at the moment, there are two. There's Johnson's Tiles and there's JCB. Johnson's Tiles is leaving the area. JCB is thought to be leaving the area.
Oh my gosh.
So there's no jobs.
Is the levelling up funding to try and keep those two there, or is it just for regeneration of the area?
Well, in the will of the guy who, I think he was the former CEO of JCB, he said that he wanted it to stay in Stoke. It doesn't look like it's going to anymore.
Right.
There's also some, I'm not saying that these are necessarily linked, but just on a tangent, adjacent to this, Jonathan Gullis has been taking donations from JCB, and he hasn't been particularly vocal about the company moving. Now, you would think that he argues that only half the factory is in his constituency.
And so it should be, what's the other Stoke-on-Trent North Conservative?
Is it Aaron Bell, the guy who...
No, he's Newcastle-under-Lyme.
Yes, so it is him. Yeah, it is him.
Oh.
Yeah.
JCB was in that constituency?
It's half that constituency.
Oh, right, okay.
Gullis's, yeah.
Cool. Right.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So the point being, all of this industry is leaving. No one is encouraging them to stay. You've got an area completely devoid of shops and commerce. It really needs quite a lot of help.
Do you think that the failure of levelling up is going to be one of the legacies of the Conservative Party, if not, because there's so much that's like gone wrong, like whether that's the NHS or education, a rack in schools. But do you think levelling up will be what's most remembered, or maybe like the most, I don't know, like the most impactful failure?
Well, a few people were talking to me yesterday about HS2, which I guess we don't talk about that much.
Yeah.
But I suppose that is a real hallmark of Stoke and Newcastle areas where there is really poor transport, public transport. Not a lot of buses. Jonathan Gullis has been fighting for buses. I think he's got a £50 million grant or something like that, government allocation. But there's hardly any buses. The trains do not connect to the areas. You can't commute around that constituency. Something like HS2 was probably could have been a light bulb moment for the area, couldn't it? It could have been like, oh wow, look, people are paying attention to us.
I think with levelling up as well, in principle, it was a great idea. It's going to be interesting to see how it's carried forward by a Labour government. Because I mean, like, a lot of what the interpretation of levelling up is giving people in constituencies like that hope that if you weren't voting Conservative in 2019 for getting Brexit done, that was a carrot that was dangled at you to just fix the local area, to upgrade your high street, to give you a train station, to regenerate the factory, this kind of thing, right? But in the last, we can talk about Redcar as well, that it's initially a point of hope, and then from 2019 to now, it's been seen to be this massive fraud. But it can be turned around. There is the possibility to turn it around with just the concept of it itself, that you just go to these former industrial places and regenerate them. And I guess GB Energy could do that in some way.
Yes, that's what they should do with GB Energy. Yeah. There's such a huge open goal for Labour, an incoming Labour government. You could have you need to go Roosevelt with it, right? You need to go like really New Deal about it, and you need to go, we're investing to create jobs, to secure our energy. You could revolutionise these areas. There's no point in doing things like I understand putting the Treasury in Darlington, don't get me wrong, I get that. That is a good move. But if the surrounding area doesn't have anything else feeding into it, great, you've secured 2,000 jobs for people.
The only immediate impact is having 5 Prets in Darlington.
Exactly. You could have an area like Redcar, you could that huge piece of land that could be used to build wind turbines, suddenly you're employing 20,000 people, like it was doing in the 90s. Exactly. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is, and these people are going to give their vote and trust to Labour this election. and it's up to them now to deliver.
They could kick the Conservatives into orbit if they champion levelling up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know
and
what I
actually
mean?
deliver it.
Yeah.
But also address what's wrong with levelling up in the first place. Like the Tees Works is entirely privately owned now. It should never be sold to an outside company. I think it was a South Korean company that owns it now. Like, why is...
No, but it doesn't even own it. It technically rents it.
It rents it.
Yeah.
Like, these are things that you should be keeping, whether it's the transport network, whether it is a piece of state infrastructure. It should never be sold off. And if you have the opportunity to take it back, like it was Avanti, wasn't it, that's being taken back or has been taken back?
No, that's still being deliberated over.
Yeah.
LNER was taken back.
But like as a policy of government to be taking things back and then actively seeking out a new buyer for the entity is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks that's nobody thinks that's a good idea.
And selling it off for cheaper.
Yeah, so just make it clear
Then it costs
that
to take it back.
Yeah, make it clear that you're not doing that anymore. The general Joe Soap is not going to be particularly clued in on the ins and outs of buying and selling state assets. So spell it out. This is what's been happening for the last 14 years. We're not doing that anymore. We're keeping it. That can be like step one into this is what levelling up should be. And this is how we're going to continue on.
Yeah. But I guess it's just, do they have the will to be that radical?
Ambitious.
And to be that ambitious?
No.
The one thing about Teesside that is honestly keeping me up at night, and this will be further explained when that video actually goes out, when I get
Stay
around
tuned.
to it.
It's a great piece.
You sit right there, fellas. What I cannot get over, the government sold the land to developers for £1 an acre. £1 an acre. So these developers came in and were like, okay, fantastic. They employ people on short-term contracts, so they haven't actually brought in secure jobs to the area. They've promised 18,000 jobs. That hasn't been delivered. People in the local area are hopeful that it will, but there's not a lot of scope for that. It's very temporary work. The thing that is keeping me up at night, the land that they sold off to developers for £1 an acre is now being leased back to the council at market rate. I could smash my face into this table. Why is that happening?
Well, Ben Houchin is still being investigated over at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, we couldn't comment on the inquiry.
No, of course not. And yeah, I mean, not to give too much away about the piece as well, but when we were talking to Andy MacDonald, and he was saying that one of the key projects that he has with the Tees Works factory is to ensure not only that people are re-employed and there is good paid work there, but it's unionized work.
Yes.
That's the thing that scares me about all of these reindustrialization projects, is that if you bring in an American company, a Chinese company, whatever it might be, the first impression I get is like, okay, so this is just going to undercut the population of this area from the good paying, good union jobs that they used to have. You're now coming in and you're giving them, might be 70, 80, 90,000 K a year, but you can just get rid of them at the drop of a hat. You can end up with another, like, I know they're materially very different things, but something like a P&O scandal or something like that, where you're employing 20 or 30,000 people in the local area and then just turn around, gone, finished.
Yeah.
You know?
And just take the money with you.
Yeah.
Because there's no risk in it. You don't have heavy investment in the area. If you've paid £1 per acre on the land, you do not have a lot of skin in the game.
Well, yeah, before you produce anything, you're already making money back off it.
And then one of the worst things I thought that was happening with Stoke was that, so there are a lot of warehouses that are going up. And so when the warehouses go up, that's a lovely little soundbite for the local politician, because they can say things like, well, look at the business that's being brought in. And it's similar to Teesside. Those warehouses are operated via automation. So they're not jobs, they're huge structures, but you don't have very many people working there. It's all being done by robots.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Oli spoke about this in his interview with like Yanis Varoufakis, where he's talking about how like the structure of Amazon factories and how they've effectively gotten rid of the managerial class. Like there is no manager class in an Amazon factory. It's just an algorithm. It's just machines, which is the most like inhuman, horrible workplace to be in as someone doing the hard labor in an Amazon factory, being told, you know, when you can take a toilet break by an algorithm. It's awful.
And how long you've been on that toilet break.
How long you've been on that toilet break.
It's so nuts.
Yeah.
We don't
Another
have...
thing.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
please.
Another thing that is in Labour's manifesto that I don't think gets a lot of coverage isn't it in their green industrial plan or in their upgrading of public infrastructure that they want to build several cloud computing services and like gigabit factory, or not gigabit factories, but like just general clouds on the brown belt, I think.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. Coming from a country that's the tax haven of Europe for social media companies, online companies, it is, I find it so strange that it's something that's mentioned. Like you could just keep it secret and that's just an infrastructure project that happens in the next 5 years. But to have that in the manifesto, I find quite strange because there is, I think it's an Apple cloud in the west of Ireland that there were protests about the planning for it, not in a NIMBY way, in a way that a cloud takes up, one, a lot of energy, and two, produces a lot of heat. And so it was put in near a nature park in the west of Ireland, in Connemara.
You're getting a lot of olive trees around there now, yeah?
Not yet, not yet. We will do soon. But the temperature of the land has increased so much since the factory has been made that it's affecting the flora and fauna of the area.
Oh my gosh.
And also, these things are kind of, when these projects come out, it's always perceived that there will be a lot of jobs in it. This is the biggest cloud in Europe, and it employs something like 20 or 30 people because all of the jobs are security. So it's in the middle of nowhere. People have to commute maybe an hour away.
It's probably outsourced to like a G4S.
Oh yeah, it's probably G4S or something like that. You know, it's 20 people working shifts, just walking circles around a factory. So just beware that they're not great. They're good, but they're not great.
That's so good. I guess because there is just a perception, big building, there are many jobs. We're very simple people, aren't we? Do you know, we don't have a lot of time. How long have we been going for, Ollie?
It's 32 minutes on the clock, but that would be a few minutes of gearing up as well.
Okay. Shall we do a bit of the Isle of Wight?
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting is the issues that
I love that this is just a catch-up episode.
Yeah.
We haven't seen each other in a while. What's interesting is the Isle of Wight, I don't think, is a place that you would think is being affected by the same issues that are affecting the north of England and these former Red Wall constituencies. But it absolutely is. I mean, along the coasts you have, or the coast of the island, you have these very nice holiday towns with lots of second homes. It's very beautiful and it's quite well off. But internally in the island, there's a town called Newport, and specifically a community in Newport called Pan, that's one of the most deprived in England. So you have quite massive inequality on the island, and a lot of that is caused by the seasonality of work. We spoke to one man who said he's been job searching for a while and he can't get a job anywhere. He's applied to Tesco's, he's applied to McDonald's, he's applied to retail, and he just can't get a job. And part of that is because if you look at the high street in Newport, it's like what you were saying, it's just full of empty shops, like empty shop after empty shop. And a lot of that is to do with the seasonality of the industries. And it has been historically, well, for the last 20 years, a Conservative safe seat. Bob Seely holds it right now. And what's quite interesting about Bob Seely is he comes from this family, which is a very big family called the Seely family, who have
Sorry.
an aristocrat in the Tory party. But yeah, historically his family owned about 10,000 acres on the Isle of Wight, and that has been sold off piece by piece, or like kind of gifted to the.
How
big
much
is
of
the
the
Isle
Isle of Wight is that?
So that was like almost the entire western
Yeah.
half of the Isle.
Holy moly.
How many acres in total is the Isle of Wight?
That's
20,000,
insane.
yeah.
That's nuts.
The man with the island.
And we went to one of the houses that the Sealy family owned. It's called Mossison Manor, and it is in National Trust hands now, but part of the family still lives in it. And like a couple summers ago, Benedict Cumberbatch married into the family and had his wedding there.
Ha.
Yeah.
Wow.
I always find it so weird how like small like the British upper classes
The
are, and how they all
aristocrats,
like know each other. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's how we ended up with that chin, isn't it?
The Habsburgs.
Yeah.
Did the English have Habsburgs?
No.
No.
You do meet some incredibly posh people who've
Oh
got
yeah.
that chin.
There will be a chin.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
will be a
Sorry,
chin.
I don't mean the actual chin.
Yeah.
But you meet people. I would say, okay, God, I'm going to be really bad. I'd say the chin that's really posh is like the no chin. Do you know that's I
don't
think
know
is the
what you-
posh English chin.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I can get on board with that. Yeah.
And they have like a very like. Oh my God, how do I even explain that? No, let me just not. Anyway, yeah, a lot of inbreeding going on there.
What's interesting though is there was like quite a lot of people said that they did like Bob Sealy and we're going to keep voting for him, even though he is predicted by some polls to lose his seat to the Labour candidate who we spoke to. But we went to one town called Ventnor, which is on the coast, and it was overwhelmingly reform. Like in almost every window, there were reform signs and reform stickers that said "Bring back common sense." And we went to this one pub called The Volunteer, which is ran by Lord Graham Perks, who's not actually a lord.
What is it?
Pub landlord, I guess.
Oh, right,
yeah,
okay.
pub landlord.
That's funny.
It was, yeah. He used to be a UKIP councillor, and the Isle of Wight voted to leave in the Brexit referendum. So I was chatting to him about why is there kind of such a grip of like UKIP and reform on the Isle of Wight, and he was talking about immigration, and I said, I was like, do you get a lot of immigration to the Isle of Wight? And he was like, yeah, from like the mainland, like meaning the UK. And I was like, I don't think, like, I'm not sure reform can stop people from like the South Coast
So wait,
coming onto the Isle of Wight.
it's anti-English immigration into England.
It's like Lega
Fantastic.
Nord in Italy.
Great.
Like their main policy platform for like 20 years was to separate Italy from like just south of Rome. And now
Right.
you've got Reform Isle of Wight that want to just separate
the
entirely.
Isle of Wight Independence Party.
Yeah.
What is it that they're particularly concerned about? Are they concerned that there might be more shops on the high street?
I think, to be fair, he had valid complaints about the island, which was waiting times in the NHS, which
That's
was
fair.
the cost of housing.
That's fair. But does any of that add up to? Is that really an immigration from the mainland issue, or is that the local MP perhaps not rallying enough to open, I don't know, a larger GP surgery or a larger school? Or
I mean, I did perhaps suggest that, but he wasn't having it.
No?
No, he
On
wasn't
to the
having
next
it.
one.
Do you think maybe we should get another GP surgery? No. No.
I wouldn't be allowed to complain about the one that I only have now.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll cut this out. But when we were like off camera and we were just chatting, he pulled out the "I'm not racist, I have a black friend" line.
Why would you
Well-
want to cut that out?
I don't know.
Naturally. Naturally.
Yeah, you can if you want, but I think that is... I would not have imagined he would have come out with that.
Wise of him to do it off camera as well, so we could share the tale now.
And he never uses the GP surgery.
It's
Right,
entirely
fellas.
private.
We're a bit tight today because I have to go and get a shower fitted.
I thought there was going to be a full stop after shower. I have to
I
just
have to go and
get a shower.
get a shower. Yeah,
It's been a long 6 weeks, 5 weeks now.
I'm ready to shower.
We're nearly done.
Well, it might be us three again tomorrow, you know.
Really?
Where's Ed tomorrow?
I
today
think
is
it's
in-
back tomorrow.
But he's in Devon today, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he might be here. one of you might be here. Is there anything you'd like to say, Seán? Anything that you'd like to...
No,
You
I'm
happy?
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sweet.
Right, so Newcastle, when can we watch that?
Probably tomorrow, I'd say.
What about you? What have you got coming out?
I think the Richmond piece is pretty near finishing, maybe tomorrow as well. Isle of Wight, I think, could be either Friday or Monday.
Yeah. Nice.
Super.
I don't know. You're going to get something from me. Right.
There's like a backlog of stuff that you've done.
Oh, why don't you?
6 videos on
Why don't you? Anyway, and I'm also going to add another video to that because I want to go and do the doctors tomorrow morning as well, who are going on strike.
Yeah.
And the potentially the hottest day of the year.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I really like the narrative that's been spun around them. They picked this intentionally. No, they didn't.
They picked to strike on the hottest day of the
Yeah.
year. Genius.
Yeah.
I did hear chat on the news of people being like, but what about people that get heat stroke at Glastonbury?
Oh, for God's sake. Do you know something? I really struggle with people on the tube who've gotten themselves into difficulty because they haven't drunk enough water. It really, I can't. Do you know what? I don't care. I can't sympathise with you, I'm afraid. Why haven't you drunk water today? Mm-hmm. You've come from your home, you've gone to an office that was presumably air-conned, presumably had a tap.
Probably got a receptacle in your bag as well. To
Do you
carry
know,
on water.
drink some bloody water. Don't be pulling on
This
that
is a
emergency
public health
cord.
message now. This isn't actually ragging on anyone.
Yeah, this is bring back common sense.
Don't come for me in the comments like, oh, there are people who are vulnerable. I know. I'm talking
We're not talking about them.
I'm talking about the type that will just... Oh my God, it's actually making me so angry thinking about
I'm
it.
lightheaded. What have you eaten today? A slice of bread.
I've not eaten today. It's 4:00, Linda. Why not? I just didn't fancy any lunch. Well, do you know what I didn't fancy? Being stuck on the Central Line. And now here I am. Anyway.
Drink water.
And do you know there are even announcements on the tube every 5 minutes saying, the weather is very warm. Please carry a bottle of water with you. Mm-hmm. They still can't.
I know I'll be packing. Make sure you are too.
Although my friend did meet her boyfriend by fainting on the tube.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
so
my God.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
Did she faint or he fainted?
She fainted
Okay.
and then she woke up.
Bit of an ick if he fainted.
I was
Yeah.
going to say that.
Why? Gendered.
Huh?
Gendered.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just going for it now. We're at the end. I'm just letting loose a little bit.
He carried her out of the tube.
Oh, that's nice of him.
Very nice. Propped her up against the side of the tube. Not the tube, sorry. As in like the wall. As in the walls.
The tube pulled out.
Onto the tracks.
Yeah. So romantic. Okay, right.
Buy tickets to the live show.
Buy tickets to the live show.
Buy them. Yeah.
Great. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.